Okay, awesome. Hi, my name is Lemi-Ola Erinkitola. I'm the founder of the Critical Thinking Child. I am an award-winning educator, parent coach, and a children's book author, as well as a cybersecurity enthusiast. Many of you I know from our working relationship and coaching relationship, but some of you are new. I want to say welcome to this webinar. I want to tell you a little bit about me because you may not be familiar with me, but I am based in Chicago, born and raised in Chicago. I love to learn. And I really believe that, learning is just a way for me to sort of like be a better teacher, a better parent, just a better human being all around. I'm a proud mother of 3 children. Here's a picture of my son who just recently graduated from college with his master's. Um, he did an accelerated program as well as a top athlete in basketball. They won the national championship last year, so we were so very proud. And one of the reasons why I started getting involved in education is because of him. He's a different kind of learner. He's a spatial learner. As a parent, I wasn't familiar with how best to guide him. So I wanted to be, the best parent I can and really help, find out tools and resources that I can use to support his education as well as my twin daughters. So after my son, I had twins and I became an even better parent, honestly, because you kind of learn from your mistakes. And, I was able to sort of used both of them as sort of a test case with my blueprint for teaching and learning. And it worked so well that they became co-valedictorians of one of the top selective enrollment schools, not only in Chicago, but really in the nation. It's ranked. So here you see us really celebrating that achievement. Also, I've been featured on many news outlets. Here are just some of the few: Chicago Tribunes, New York Post, WGN recently, Good Morning America, etc. So in case you're wondering, like, okay, why should we take our time to kind of listen to Lemi-Ola? I am not new to this. I've been doing this for quite some time. So that's sort of like proof in the pudding. All right, so our mission for the Critical Thinking Child, because my children, I started when they're young, and now most of them are getting ready to at least accomplish 1 degree under their belt in college. So my daughters are at Northwestern and Duke, and I have a daughter who's applying for Yale. So why do I do this? I do this because I want to be able to share the information that I have learned. It was a struggle for me to kind of figure out what to do, how to do it, what resources to invest in, what services to, sign up for. And I wanted to be able to share that with the community because I feel that it shouldn't be that difficult for parents to be able to help their child. So our mission at the Critical Thinking Child is to empower parents and educators and work with our community partners so that we can inspire and nurture critical thinking in young children. And we really believe critical thinking is a tool and a necessity in today's society, especially with, the change in the education industry and moving into more sort of machine learning, automated technology, AI, et cetera, that it really requires a lot of critical thinking. And we don't feel children get enough of that. So that is one of our missions, is to make sure that we're impacting society by working with our partners and developing critical thinking in young children. Okay. So today we're not talking about critical thinking necessarily, but we're talking about the STAR 360 test. Okay. If you've been in Chicago a while, you would have known, I would say if you've been around in Chicago for at least 5 years, put in the chat, if you're from Chicago, put a number in, how many years you've been in Chicago, because this is important. It's been over, I'm born and raised in Chicago for me. I'm not going to give away my age. You guys can probably figure it out. But I would say working with the Chicago Public School District and some of the districts outside of Chicago, Many of you would have noticed a change in their reporting tool. Okay, some of you may have remembered the NWEA. All right, put a yes in the chat if you remember the NWEA, if that acronym rings a bell for you. So the district is not new to assessing kids. This is not a new phenomenon at all. Many of you have kids in 5th grade, so they may have entered kindergarten right around the time where, you know, CPS was making or thinking of making modifications and moving away from the NWEA. So today, the STAR 360 is just one of the assessment tools. It is not the only assessment tool. But today we're going to talk about real, quickly, like what it is, how to read this report and how to interpret your students' results, because I believe over 40% of you actually said that you received your students' results. So we want to help you kind of decipher that. Okay, so the Renaissance STAR assessment, because it is a sort of a bundle of assessments, and it is computer-based, but it really kind of focuses on like literacy, reading, and math. Okay. Now, here are the different offerings that the Renaissance organization offers as far as assessment. So they have the STAR reading assessment, which is typically for grades, I would say, you could see it on the screen here. I'll go ahead and put my spotlight, from grades 1 through 12, right? Now, they also have, students in kindergarten that have like basic reading skills that may be introduced to what they call the STAR reading. And here you can see the various skill sets that this particular assessment will, actually have questions that will be posed to the students. So these are the high level sort of skill sets. You see, we have word knowledge and skills, comprehension strategies, etc. If we look at the STAR math as well, that is for grades 1 through 12. Okay, and then also for students in kindergarten who have basic reading and math skills. All of this, the decision to take like the STAR math and the STAR reading, it's going to be based on the school and the district. Okay. Oh, all right. So we have like the number in operations. These are our usual suspects, guys. Numbers and operations, geometry, algebra, measurement, data and statistics, and probability. These are our high-level umbrella categories in the United States that are often measured with any assessment. Okay, at least the ones that I have seen for the past 2 decades. I don't think there's another bucket. Maybe one day we'll have that critical thinking bucket, right? And we can figure out how to measure that. That would be awesome. All right, so over here to the right, you see the STAR Early Literacy. STAR Early Literacy. And that is for pre-K through grade 3. So really early beginning readers. Some of you remember the Iowa test. Wow, we're going way back. If those of you that remember the Iowa test, you may actually remember the Dibbles. Remember the Dibbles? The Dibbles was like the first like phonics type of assessment that they would give to like pre-K and kindergarten. So really basic foundational skills here is what we're really talking about. So you see some of that in the STAR Early Literacy. Okay, I love the Iowa assessment. I thought that was a great tool. I still have some of my books, by the way, on that. All right, so let's move on and let's kind of dive in a little deeper and trying to give you information that you could not have maybe read yourself on the actual report, right? So did you know that the number of questions on the actual assessment is ranging between 27 and 34. 27 and 34. Did you know that? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because, in the past, some of those assessments like the NWEA or the ISAT or the Iowa exam, those typically have more than 34 questions. Now, when I ask my actual students, oh, is there a question coming in? I'm sorry. Did we have a question coming in? Okay. All right. So we'll leave time for questions in just a moment. All right. So I'm only bringing this to your attention because this type of assessment is very quick. It's a fast, quick assessment. If you remember those days of the ISAT, the Iowa test, or even the NWEA, it would take educators a long time to assess every kid. I mean, they would start an assessment and 2 weeks to 4 weeks at best to get it done. It was a lot of work and it took a lot of time. And so one of the things I'm noticing about the STAR 360 is that it's quick, quick, quick. And there's not a whole lot of questions, but the technology behind it is very sophisticated in terms of pinpointing the different performance levels and the percentiles that we'll talk about later. There may be some questions in there that they use for like practice questions that really don't get calibrated into your child's score. So just be aware of that. The reason being is that I went and asked some of my students, like, okay, after they took the STAR 360, these are the students in my after school program. After school academic enrichment program. So they're showing me their report, et cetera. And some of them are saying, well, I had 34 questions, I had 35 questions, I had 37 questions. But for the most part, some of those questions are just practice questions, okay? All right, so not a lot of questions. And when we don't have a lot of questions on the assessment, what could happen? That means that if you start missing them, you know, it's not going to be a pretty picture. Okay, so let's look at what the computerized adaptive test looks like. Okay, and what that means. So if we're talking about 35 questions, you can see here, hopefully everybody can see this. You could see here that in this example, we're starting off with, sort of like grade level questions in the green. The green represents correct responses and the red represents incorrect responses. And then this bar is sort of your standard of error of measurement, right? So there's algorithms behind this, right? So just imagine your child is taking this online assessment and they're answering questions, they're getting it right. Question 1, question 2, question 3, they miss. What happens? What happens? Put in the chat, what happens? Question 3, they miss. It's the third bar here. Our first incorrect response, right? The next question is going to be what? Slightly easier, slightly easier. Then let's say in this scenario, they go on to the next question that's easier, they get it right. That's why it's a green. Then they go up, the next question is going to be a little harder. I see that coming into the chat. And then it goes down. So you kind of see a pattern here. Now, every child is going to have a different pattern, that helps to derive their score. So this is not something you would see as a parent, right? This is something, the teachers don't even see this. All the machinery and calculations is being done by the computer. But this is just a simulation of what this might look like as an example in terms of how the computer adaptive process is working. So really in the end, it's really to kind of level out as you see where that child, is. But one of the notes I had, I think I had a note on this when I may have to come back to that because I think I had some notes that I wanted to share with my interview from one of the STAR 360 representatives on that. But does everyone understand what's happening with an adaptive assessment? Put a Y in the chat if you understand. If you're with me, put a Y in the chat. Everyone gets this, the process? Yeah? Okay, so then we can move on. Awesome. I'm seeing a lot of yeses come in, so I'm gonna move on. Looks like you guys are the smart group. Like, yeah, Lemi, we get it, we understand. Let's move on. All right, so with this computerized adaptive test, you guys understand how it works. And again, it's meant to provide a quick and accurate estimate of a student's development skills. Like, really, this test is to help educators be able to help your child learn what is next, essentially. Sometimes we look at assessments and, we want to, as parents, we may want to feel like, okay, is this a pass or fail? My child might be doing horribly, but a lot of these tests, and the NWEA was the same way, was really to be a tool for educators to be able to really provide more personalized instruction for a student, okay? And help that child accelerate. All right, so it's not necessarily, I don't want you to look at it as, oh, my child did bad or passed or failed. It is information to empower us, information to empower parents, information to empower educators. One of the things on the scale score, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the scaled scores after they're calibrated. If you have your report in front of you, and 40% of you do, you should look at that first page that shows the color, right? Color is always good, because even if we can't read, we know colors. And everybody seems to know that green is good, red is bad, if you don't know anything in between, right? So, or at least green means go and red means stop. So if you're looking at the front page of your parent report, you will see that there is a scaled score here. They have triple and quadruple numbers here, okay? So this is their scaling system. If it is the STAR early literacy, that range is going to be from 300 to 900. If it is, let's say, the STAR reading and the STAR math, it's going to be from 0 to 1400, okay? All right. Your report is printed in black and white. Oh, that's okay. That's okay if it's in black and white, because based on where the marker is, it'll tell you what bar you're in, okay? And hopefully I have an example of that. All right, but these are the scores from, okay? So I think everybody's, it's like a ruler, a measurement. All right, then they also have domain scores. So we're gonna go into, I'm gonna give an example. A lot of these is just better when we give an example. So here's one of my students. Okay, I kind of sanitized information, so you can't tell which student it is. All right, so this student is in 6th grade, and hopefully those of you that are looking at your report in black and white, let's kind of help you out here. If you're looking at your report in black and white, so if you can see the bar, you should still get a bar. All right, and maybe there's different shades of gray for you, but as you can see with the first section, 0 to 900, and then that is like urgent intervention. And then the yellow is intervention, and that's this section here, intervention, followed by on watch, which is blue, followed by at and above benchmark, which is in green. Okay, so hopefully this will help you, because they do have partitions. Now you want to pay attention to this dotted line for your student. Okay, pay attention to what's going on for your student. Okay, you have that exact same kind of scoring for the reading. Good, so you're following along with me just fine. Awesome. All right, so as we look at that, let's talk about the scale score. So what you need to know is that this scale score is derived from, it's based on the difficulty of the questions that the students receive and the number of questions that he or she answered correctly. All right, I'm going to repeat that again. And where this score is coming from, this score right here, because we can't help our children or our students if we can't read information and we don't know what's happening or where information is coming from. So this score right here I'm gonna circle it for you. Quadruple, triple or quadruple score. That is the actual score that's derived from the difficulty of the questions, right? Because the questions get more difficult as they continue to answer questions if they get it correct, right? If they don't, it gets easier. And so it's really about them answering as many of the challenging questions correctly as possible to get the higher score. Okay, that's not rocket science. We get it. We get the math, we understand the logic, but then how do we get there? That's a different story. All right, and we'll kind of talk about that. Any questions on this? Now, there is a similar family report on the math as well, okay? A similar family report on the math, all right? So the scale scores are based on the same thing. All right. So how does this apply to teachers? Let's think about how teachers are using this, because this information here, this scale score, is probably most important for teachers and educators, because this is information that's going to tell them how they can what they need to do to kind of develop some intervention plans, right? And maybe put some kids into tiers so that they can better focus on the skills that a particular child or group of students need to work on. So this is valuable information for the educators, okay? And it's mainly for them, but as parents, we're looking at everything. We all want green, it wouldn't matter what this information is for. From when I put on my parent hat, we're all like, we got to get them in green. And we should be collaborating and working with the educators to do that, because they want the same thing too. But it's an approach, it's a strategy, and it does take some work to get into that green space. All right, and we'll talk about how do we get into that green space, because everybody can't be in green at the same time. The numbers just don't work that way. But the students and the parents and the collaboration and those that put in the time and effort really are the ones that end up in the green for the most part. And that's with any assessment. All right, let's go. I see some of your questions coming in, but I'm gonna keep moving because we wanna be able to leave some time for questions, okay? So domain score, move to the next part of your report. It should be the same page, and go to the domain score. Let's talk about what that means. Now, how do they get the domain score? That domain score is a range from 0 to 100. Okay, so it is almost like, it kind of represents like if they have mastery on a particular section. So here you can see there's some key ideas and details, 92%, all in green. Use the color code so you can kind of know for this particular student just doing outstanding, but there is some areas that the student can improve upon, okay? Now, when we look at this particular report, the next report, we'll see that we'll see more details here. And what we see here is this student has taken the STAR multiple times. You pretty much only get this one, I believe, if your child has taken it more than once. Okay, so if you had your school administer this test perhaps in the fall of last year, and then again in the winter of 2023, and then perhaps there'll be end of year assessment coming in perhaps May of this year. So some students will be assessed 3 times. Now, it's based on a district or school decision on how many times they're going to assess, but most schools will do at least 2 assessments, right? Because you want to get your baseline, and then you want to see how well your interventions have worked to improve the child's score, okay? All right, so when we're looking at this score here, let's kind of go through what the number is. The quadruple number comes from that particular scale score, right? The ones we just talked about with the color. Now, when they talk about the percentile, not percentage, percentile. So let's see if you're with me right here. In this case, we're looking at 69% of percentile score. And this student, there may be some fluctuations when you see the percentile changing, okay? If you perhaps find a situation where the student is actually doing, grade level work and really excelling at it and doing really well in school and getting A's, their percentile, depending on that situation, may not have a growth in the percentile. And they may be doing great. You may have great teachers and all of that good stuff. This is the kind of test where you have to stretch them above grade level. Okay, if you want to see that number move above 50 percentile, it's like any other test. The STAR 360 is no different. Okay, if you want to have your child get into that green, space, that means that child is getting enrichment. That child is getting a lot of support from home. That child is completing the homework. One of our parents early on at the beginning of this webinar was talking about making that transition from second grade to third grade and all the homework. Yeah. So it is a big difference when you're going from certain grade levels, especially entering a benchmark grade level. You'll notice that there's a vast amount of difference in the homework and maybe even the content of the homework, but it is certainly doable. If you want your child in the green space, it is certainly doable. But I will tell you, it's going to take, intensity. It's going to take work. All right. And even if your child is in the green space in the beginning, if you don't follow through with the work, they can easily dip down and their percentiles can dip down. Okay. All right. So we've got the percentile. So what this percentile is saying is that this student is higher than 67% of the students nationally in the same grade. In the same grade, okay? I think that's important to repeat because the NWEA was a little bit different in terms of how they calculated that percentile rank. They had the percentile, then they had grade level equivalent. So percentile, comparing students, your peers, looking at your peers in the same grade. All right, so your report, if you look at your report, parents, if you're looking at your report down below, they will explain each one of these scores in detail. Make sure you read it, okay? They explain what the percentile rank is. They explain whether it's average, whether it's below average or above average. It's all in there. So you should be able to get that detailed information. That's what you want to pay attention to. Okay, it's called the student report, and it breaks it down, and it'll give you a good sense of, how your child is faring compared to his or her peers who took the test at the same time. Okay, so you got to keep that in mind. All right. Okay, let's go to the next. All right, so when we look at the grand scheme of things, most people want to know, well, okay, I know how they compare to the peers, but I just kind of want to know what is a good number, and what number should it be, to get into the green. So here's the scale score benchmark. Okay, this is just one example. When I spoke to the representative at STAR 360. They do have default benchmarks. Okay, the system has a default benchmark, but then it also allows the district or school perhaps to modify and choose their own scale benchmark. So don't take this with a grain of salt. This is just an example. And for the most part, this is coming from the Renaissance STAR 360. But my understanding is that some of the districts and schools have some flexibility in terms of how they're setting their bars and measurements. Okay. All right. I see some questions coming in. Let me take a look at it. All right, I see that. 81 percentile. Yeah, we just went over what that means, right? Let's see. And that's good. Congratulations on that 81 percentile. All right, so then the next question is, what does the level number mean? In your example, level number, level 4. Oh, you know what? That's a good catch, because they have also bundled the categories into level by grade. And I think what we're going to do is kind of see if we have time to kind of dive into that. Yeah, I saw the levels as well. They have so many different categories here. Level 4, it's a grade level. So this is this student's particular scenario, right? So for this student scenario, what that level 4 meant, that the student was in green, okay? So it's right here. The score resulted in a placement in level 4, which really means that this student is hitting their target. Okay, it is higher than 69% of the students in the 6th grade in this case. So a level 4 is at or above the benchmark. Okay, and I would imagine that there are, I can confirm this, but you're asking such a great question. I would imagine that there are probably like 4 levels. Level 1 is, urgent, in the red. Level 2, yellow, intervention. Level 3, blue, on watch. And level 4, at or above the benchmark. Okay. I'm deducing that that's what it means, because it makes sense. Okay. I can follow up and verify on that. Good question. All right. So I think there was another question coming in. You mentioned something about grade 5. I'm not sure what that means, grade 5. You can elaborate and I can help out. Okay, we only get student report and no color shaded report. Yeah, because the color shaded report is for the teachers, really. I'll be honest with you. That front page report is designed for educators to be able to put students together based on their performance level, and then also put them in different tiers using like a multi-tier approach, and really kind of zone in to give them personalized learning. So I'm not surprised if if you don't have it. You have the meat of what you need as a parent, though. If you're getting these detailed reports, you're getting the scale score, right? And the scale score will tell you if your child is at that particular level or if your child is, on par. So you can still take action without getting that colorful report at the top. Whether you should ask your teacher for it, that's going to depend on you. They got to print it. If your relationship with the teacher, I don't know. Some teachers are like really overwhelmed with right now. They just completed testing and then they're trying to do the tiering. So use your discretion, because here's the thing as a parent. If you want to cash in one of your cards, your favorite cards with a teacher to get the top report, you can do so. But as we know, we can only ask for requests from a teacher so many times before there's some level of frustration, right? So choose your battles and your requests wisely. Okay, so I'm going to leave it up to your discretion as to whether or not you want to cash in one of your cards and ask for this test. Okay, fair enough. All right, let's see. All right, so someone is saying that there's also something showing as, yeah, I know. As you guys have been reading this report, right? There's so many different acronyms. The SGP, that is the grade level equivalent. I don't know if we'll have time to go through that today. All right, so we're already like, how much time? We've got like 15 minutes. But I'm answering the questions as we go. And I did write a blog report on it. It's about an 8-minute read. I'm happy to share the link with you guys. But I kind of feel like doing the webinar is like more engaging, and we can go back and forth with the questions, but there is a very detailed blog post on our website, and I believe that has the answer to your question. So if we don't get to it today, definitely go to the website and you'll be able to find that information there, I believe. If not, you can reach out to me and we'll get that answer for you. Okay, let's look at the reading. Okay. All right, so we looked at math. Now we're looking at the reading. You're going to get the same similar report, your scaled scores. And again, if your child is taking it more than once, you'll start seeing this report. Now, one of the things you may say, like, what is this range here? When I saw this for the first time, I'm like, okay, well, the student's percentile went from a whopping like 19% to 72%. Like, wow. Like that is like incredibly amazing, right? So this parent was on top of it. The teacher was on top. This is rare, guys, to have that kind of significant jump. Somebody do the math. What is 72 minus 19? Somebody tell me in the chat. 72, because like this student like really accelerate. Now, there's a couple of things that, we can kind of speculate and say, oh, okay, well, maybe their first time taking the STAR. Like if you have a child and it's their first time taking the STAR assessment or a computerized assessment, it may be a little rough to kind of understand, how to navigate this system, right? And that's why they put in some practice questions. But some kids are like, oh, okay, if they don't take it seriously, they're not going to get the results that really reflect what they can do. So my advice is to make sure that you actually talk to your students and, find out when they're taking their tests. Again, if they're taking the end of the year STAR, get on top of it, parents. Have that conversation. Let them know to take it seriously. I had one student, a fifth grader, who told me the student did very well. Percentile was 91. And the student just said, yeah, I got a 91, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't even try. I didn't take it seriously. So her peers were showing me scores of like 98 percentile, 96 percentile. So imagine if she just put in like more effort, she could have been even higher than her 91. And the next time she takes the test, if she doesn't put in more effort, she may see her percentile drop. So you got to be careful with that. Like, let them know is, something to take, very seriously. I'm sure the teachers do a great job of that. But, sometimes, how kids are. They need to hear it from both ends, parents and teachers, especially when it comes to this test that only has 35 questions. Am I the only one laughing at that? Okay, so, I'm going to give you 35 questions and you got to get into green. All right. Well, the report should show an explanation of your percentile, but we'll go over the percentile definition again. It's the same for everyone, okay? So if you have your percentile number, let's read that again. Okay, if you have your percentile rank, rather, they call it percentile rank, then what it is saying is that Jane Doe or John Doe, skills are higher than X percent. Fill in the blank on that. If it's 30, then 30. If it's 50, 50. If it's 90, 90. Of students nationally in the same grade. Okay, so fill in the blank. That's what that means. Now, it will also, if you get the report, kind of indicate if that score is average. I'll tell you like a 69% is average, at least based on how this particular school has set their benchmark, okay? Because that's part of it too. And, what will it take to get to above average? Well, it's going to be higher than 69% in many cases, okay? All right, so where are we now? So we did the domain. We're going to go down and wrap up quickly. Let's take a look at the math, and I'll clear the screen. You guys can take a look at this. All right, so here are the scale scores. So kind of, and here we see, this is one example, an 8th grader who's in the 78th percentile rank. And they're, pretty much getting a scale score of 888. So pretty much in this range. So that puts them in the blue and their 78th percentile rank. Okay. And blue is proficient, guys. I know you don't see that if, colorful reports, some of you, but blue is good. Blue does not mean bad. I had some parents who were like, why are they in the blue? I don't understand that. They're not in the green. Is there any oversight on the benchmark? A question is coming in. Can you clarify how the benchmarks are set? Is there any oversight? How can we understand how to compare that across other schools? That's a difficult thing because, good question, but those benchmarks are set by the schools. Now, I mentioned earlier that the STAR 360 has a default benchmark. I went over those and I'll repeat those again. This is just the default. So let's start with red. Red is 10% or below. Okay, 10% or below, you're in the red. Yellow is 10 to 24%, then you're in yellow. Blue, 25 to 39%, you're in blue, and 40% or above, you're in the green. Okay, and that's how their default is. But I have to caution you that the districts have the opportunity to modify that and develop or input custom benchmarks, if that makes sense. If they feel that the default benchmarks are not rigorous enough, challenging enough for where they want their students to be performance-wise, achievement-wise, then they're gonna raise the bar, okay? And we have a lot of bright students here in the city of Chicago, a lot of competitive schools. And so, raising the bar, especially if you have a kid in a selective enrollment school, they're gonna raise the bar on that, more than likely. So there is not one answer to that. It really depends on what the school or the district has decided to do, okay? But when you get your report, you'll be able to, compare and see how your child compares with their peers within that school and also peers within the grade level. So that should give you, some peace of mind on that. Sorry, I couldn't, it's not cut and dry. I tried to find out, it's not cut and dry. That's pretty much how they're doing it. Okay, we're getting ready to wrap up in just a few minutes here. So let me go back. That was the reading level. Let's make sure I covered everything I wanted to cover. Got to look at my notes here. Okay, so when they take the assessment, I did ask about like how much time do they have per question? Okay, on average, it's about 3 minutes per question before it times out. Now, if it times out on the question, then it's marked wrong. Okay, meaning if the child doesn't answer it, it's going to be marked wrong. And what I mean by marked wrong is going to be marked as incorrect, and they're going to get an easier one. So what we teach at the Critical Thinking Child, everybody who has worked with us knows that you take educated guesses, you use information that you already know, and you try to answer questions and problem solve. And so our students know not to leave answers, not to leave questions unanswered, because it will like count against them. And as you saw from that grid, like, if you get the score that goes down, it's kind of hard to get back up there. I would imagine you'd have to get 3 or 4 harder questions in a row correct to get back up to where that one question that you got wrong dipped you down, so because they only have like 35 questions. And also I think I heard I think I read somewhere that, typically by the time they get to like question 25, they're getting a good idea of where the kid should be. So you don't have a whole lot of opportunity here. I mean, this is just, some of you may say, well, that's kind of unfair, but hey, that's the world we're living in. It's very competitive. Believe me, I know, we're trying to get one into Yale. It's competitive. All right, so let's see. Do you guys have, is there a deadline by which the student has to complete this test? Or can they go on with no time deadline? Did I just answer that with the time deadline? Because it's like a time test. Now, if you have an IEP, there may be some extra time allotted, but when they start the test, I think for each question is about 3, maybe 5 minutes on the math. I had a student say, oh, it's about 5 minutes, but then that student answered every single question. So I'm going to go off of what the source told me at the company. He said 3 minutes per question, and then it sort of times out. I hope that helps you. All right, so there's another question coming in. All right. Let me know if I answered your time question. I want to make sure I answer that one. All right, this session is really helpful. My child was concerned in grade 2. Yeah. And the school chooses the test. Yeah, it's the iReadies. That's right. Some of the kids, they won't start until what, 3rd grade, I think. And then they use the iReady for K through 2. I'm familiar with that. But get ready, the iReady will get you ready for the STAR 360. It is a different kind of test. Can I share any reference material afterwards on that test? On the iReady? Okay, that would be my next step, researching the iReady. Okay, I can do, that's the next one. I'll research that and I'll get you some stuff, but right now I don't have it off the top of my head. I've seen the iReady reports. They are not, let's see, they're not difficult to, well, in my opinion, they're not difficult to decipher. But if you need any help right now, just send me an email and we'll just take it offline and go through any questions that you have, if that's okay with you. For the iReady. Okay, so another question coming in, didn't understand the time inquiry. Is it 2 to 3? Oh, no. It is definitely not a 2 to 3 hour test. That was like how the tests were in the past. This test is quick. So let me see. Quick. That's what makes it so attractive. Because, the attention span of, humans today. I'm just going to say humans. Little humans and big humans. All right, we have to get through stuff quick. I blame Amazon for that. They kind of spoiled everybody with a quick shipment. Can I blame Amazon? All right, maybe not just Amazon. All right, so I had in my notes that on average how long that test will take. I want to say 20 to 30 minutes is what I'm recalling in my head. I think it's about a 20 to 30 minute test. It's fast. Did that answer it? It's close to 20 to 30 minutes, yeah. Now, if your child has an IEP, they may get a little bit longer. But this is not meant to be like hours and hours, like how we took tests in the past. Some kind of way, the algorithm is way more sophisticated in terms of gauging where the child is and what skills they need to learn next. Multiple choice. Yeah, multiple choice. It is multiple choice. That's correct. Yep. Good question. All right. So we're coming close to the end of this parent training session. So now what? Remember, the critical thinking child, we work with parents, community organizations, and schools. We're inside of schools helping them kind of close the gap and, work with students that have taken this STAR 360 and NEET intervention. We work directly with parents and we offer tutoring programs. We're getting ready to offer our spring tutoring session. I'm so excited. We're starting in March. So if any of you are interested, please reach out. We also have our partner programs with the 530 Scholars and Mr. Silas Green. But if any of you are interested, I think there was one more slide available that I thought I had the contact information. Oh yeah, here it is. And I want to thank you all for coming today. I hope I shared some information that was of value to you. If you need to get some support with your child in reading and or math, our spring session will be starting very soon in March. Email me so that you can get access to a discount for attending this training session. All right, because we're getting ready to launch our sessions from March until May to try to help boost up their performance reports, help kids do better on the STAR report, so you guys can be smiling come May instead of frowning, wondering what's going on. So yeah, info@criticalthinkingchild.com. Or visit our website. We'll be updating that with some of our tutoring services as well. Okay, so we are past time. I'm going to turn off the recording now.